Hiya, how you doing? It's Jimmy here. It's been a while. Now if you haven't seen me before, most of my videos are something to do with that. And that is Roger. Roger's my Citroen Relay panel van that I've converted into a self-build camper van. And in this video I'm going to show you what I do to prepare the van for travelling in the summer. Now you've all heard the saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Now I'm not full-time in the van, I only travel in the summer, which means for 6 months of the year my van is parked up in the workshop. Now granted it is undercover, but I still like to check it to give me the best chance of an issue-free summer. Right, I'm going to start with the water system. I've got a 70 litre Fiamma tank underneath the sink, and in the autumn before I park it up I drain it off, take the red inspection cover off, and I dry the inside of the tank with a towel. You don't want to be leaving water in your tank all year round. It'll build up bacteria and green mould. Now some people say that they've never cleaned their tanks because they don't use the water in there for drinking, only for washing the dishes and things. But this job is so easy and it's not expensive, so it's a no-brainer. Why would you not just do it? Most people use this. I'm just going to put, it says 1 teaspoon per gallon, which is 4.5 litres. I'm going to put 20 litres in, so that's going to be 5 spoonfuls. So it's 5 of them, and then I'm going to fill it with 20 litres of water, and then I'm going to drive the van around so the water sloshes around. I'm also going to put it through the taps and the pipes, turn all the taps, pipes, including the shower if you've got one, and then tomorrow we'll drain it off, put fresh water in, and again through the pipes, through the taps, and probably do that twice, and then third time fill it up and you're sorted. Moving on to the heating system now. As you can no doubt see, I've got a diesel heater. Now I don't use the heater much in the van, and that diesel in that tank has been in there for 12 months. Now diesel only lasts between 6 months and 12 months depending on the conditions it's been kept in. So for £10 that's going to be taken out and put fresh diesel in. And I'm also going to change the filter, and I'm trying to show you, just in case you don't know, there's a little arrow printed on the side. That's the direction of flow. Now this might be a bit messy, so have a rag nearby, and there we go, and something to catch the diesel in. Make sure you get all the sediment out the bottom. "10 minutes and it's all done. And don't worry about the old diesel, it won't be going down the drain. That's its new home." Can you hear that? That's the sound of heat. Well, you might be wondering, why did you go to all the trouble if you don't use your heater much? Well, this year I'm going to go away a bit earlier than normal. In fact, my first trip's in 10 days time, and it's still a bit on the chilly side. And it's always better to have and not need than to need and not have. Moving on to the gas. I always check for leaks every year before I start travelling. Because if you don't know you've got a small gas leak and you get a gas build up, you can only imagine what could happen. Now when I installed the hob in the first place, I bought this to check my work. It's a leak detector spray. It doesn't want to focus. And it works just like soapy water. It's dead easy to do and it wasn't expensive. All you do is turn your bottle on at the tap on top of the bottle, but do not light the burners. This will pressurize the pipes and the system and spray this over all the joints. Obviously not the burners, but the joints, and look for bubbles. And of course you need to know how much gas is in the bottle. You wouldn't want to run out when you're cooking your dinner, or you might be off grid, something like that. So you need to know how much gas is in your bottle. So how do you do that? Well, there's the slosh test. LPG, the L part of LPG is liquid or liquefied. So there's liquid in the bottle. So if you pick it up and give it a shake, you can feel and hear the liquid sloshing around inside. Now, although it's not pinpoint accurate, you can get a good idea how much liquid gas is in the bottle. And that's normally what I do. But I've heard of another way, and I've never done it before, so we'll try that now. Now the theory is, if you get a kettle full of boiling water and pour it down a strip top to bottom of the bottle, that will make the bottle hot. And the LPG inside is very cold, so that will cool the part of the bottle where the LPG is. So you should go hot, 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 hot when you get to the level of the LPG, cold. Then you take the boiling water and pour it slowly over the side of the LPG bottle. Now put the bottle level. And this metal is very hot now, and as you go down with your finger, there it's cold. There it's cold. It's freezing cold there. There. There, we've got that much in. Isn't that clever? Well, that worked quite well, didn't it? So between the two tests you should get a pretty good idea where the level is. And I wasn't far wrong with the slosh test. I said it was about a third. Now this is an obvious one, but it's a very important one. Your tyres. You must check your tyres for wear. The legal limit on a tyre is 1.6 millimeters over the centre 3/4 of the tyre lasting the whole circumference. Should also check for scuffs, cuts, cracks, bulges in the side walls. Now, what would you do if you got a puncture? You don't forget your spare. Now, the spare on most vans, my van included, is hung underneath the vehicle. It's quite awkward to get to. And there's a special tool in your vehicle's toolkit. Now you should know where that is. On a Citroen Relay, it's under the passenger seat. Now you should have a variety of tools in there, but they're all very basic. But you should check them, see if the jack's working, check if they're all there, and then a very important one, check that the mechanism to lower the spare wheel is free. Because I'll guarantee, if you've done this yourself or you've even had it into a professional garage, if you can check the tyre pressure without taking the spare wheel out, the mechanic will not have taken the spare wheel out. So it could have been years since this mechanism was checked, and the doozy's up. This is what I do every year with mine. On a Citroen Relay van, the spare wheel lowering mechanism is located behind the offside rear wheel. That's the driver's side, by the way. This shows the special tool. I've also used a socket and extension bar on a 1/2-inch drive ratchet. The socket extension bar and ratchet are not included in the vehicle's tools, by the way. This is the spare wheel holder. Make sure the securing nut is cleaned and lubricated to prevent it seizing. This is the actual lowering mechanism. with the special tool inserted. If you remove the spare wheel completely, it makes it much easier to check. It also makes the next step easier too. Much to the annoyance of my MOT tester, I spray old oil on all the parts under the vehicle I want to protect from the elements. I make sure to include the handbrake cable and swivels. They are also very prone to season if not in regular use. Proof of this can be seen on my 2021 video where I freed off, stripped down and overhauled all the brakes on the van. Clean and lubricate this and check everything is free. We can now check the tyre properly. The raised band across the tyre is called the tread wear indicator and is raised 1.6mm from the lowest part of the tread. So you need to replace your tyres before this becomes smooth. If this was a tyre being used as opposed to being a spare, I would be replacing it now, but it's okay to get me home as a spare. Don't forget to check the pressures. I always inflate the spare to 5 to 10 psi higher than the tyres on the van, because you probably don't check the spare as often as them. And you can always take air out on the roadside, but it's harder to put it back in. I tried to show you the special tool here, but it didn't want to focus. Look how well it works when it's free. Now I do realise most people won't have the equipment that I've got as far as the ramp, the compressor and the oil gun, but you can still do this. If you put your old oil into a container and just paint it on with a paintbrush. Now if you are going to do this yourself, don't lie under the van with just a jack. Get some axle stands or chocks or something. Vehicles fall off jacks all the time. Now it's very important to get your van serviced regularly. So if your van is due or hasn't been serviced for a while, now's the time to do it. And if you're not going to service it, at least you may consider changing the oil, or at least checking the levels, the oil, the water, the brake fluid, tyre pressures, lights. Obviously I do my own servicing and I'm not going to be changing the oil on my van this year, although I will be checking all those levels I've just mentioned. I'm not putting oil in my van this year because last time I changed the oil I put really expensive, really high spec oil in. It lasts about 20,000 miles I think, if my memory serves me right, and I've done nowhere near 20,000 miles in it. I put Royal Purple oil in. Now I'm sure there's clips on YouTube to show you what this oil does. Fantastic stuff, ultra expensive. And I won't be doing the brakes this year because if you've seen my video that I've already mentioned, that was a major strip down, free off, lubricate and overhaul the brakes. And my brakes were seized, they were seized on. Now there's a little check you can do to check if your brakes are seized on. Now this little test is only to see if your brakes are sticking on. It does not mean that your brakes are working 100% and it is definitely not a substitute for a service. Now I need to find a quiet road with a bit of an incline. I think this one will be perfect. This is the one I used to test the customers' cars on when I had the garage. Right, as you noticed, this incline wasn't that steep. You only want a bit of an incline. You don't do it on a really steep hill. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull forward and then come to a stop, out of gear, handbrake on, press the foot brake quite firmly a few times, and then with your foot on the foot brake, let the handbrake off so you don't roll back, and then pull the handbrake on quite firmly a few times. Then pull the handbrake on, foot brake off, turn the engine off, And now let the handbrake off, making sure there's nobody behind you, no little kids are playing around the van, cars and pulled up behind you. And then let the brake off, and that's what's supposed to happen. And it should happen pretty much straight away. Now use your foot brake to stop you, and that's it. If yours doesn't do that, it might be an indication that you've got a sticking brake. If that is the case, I would put it in to have your brakes checked. But if you want to check it yourself first, before you put it in to have them checked, jack each wheel up individually and see how easily they turn. You'll probably find one of them, at least one of them, isn't turning very freely. And I can't stress enough, this is just an indication. It does not say that your brakes are working properly. If in doubt, get your brakes checked. Now I'm just going to put a spanner on the roof rack, make sure the roof rack bolts are tight, nice and secure. I'm also going to check the solar panel, make sure the solar panel is secure. And make sure that you clean the solar panel, because it's just like a headlight. If the headlight's dirty, it won't shine very bright. If the solar panel's dirty, you won't get the potential charge. Now, do you have electricity in your van? And I'm not just talking about 240 hookup, I'm talking 12 volts as well. And do you have a heater in your van? And do you ever use it when you're asleep? If you answered yes to any of those questions, you should really have a CO detector and a smoke alarm fitted to your van. And they're no good if they don't work, so you should test them, and at the start of the season fit a new battery. On my carbon monoxide tester and smoke alarm, you push this in to gain access to the battery, move the battery,
fire, fire. Warning, carbon monoxide.
As well as the smoke alarm, I've also got a first aid pack, and behind the table a fire extinguisher. Right, that's all the physical checks on the van done, but another part of preparation is deciding what to take. Now, obviously you take the standard toolkit that comes with the van on a Citroen relay, that's under the passenger seat, and that's got your jack and your tool for your spare wheel. But I take other stuff. Now I'm just going to have the coffee and then I'll show you what I take. Firstly, you will never be able to carry enough tools to cope with every job that might arise. So we're only going to talk about general tools. Now I've got a bit of a list. We'll start with hammer, pliers, mole grips. Then I've got sets. And what I mean by sets is quarter drive socket sets, Allen keys, torques and splines. Now sometimes you can get them all incorporated into one set, and they're not heavy and they're not bulky, it's easy to store. Now I've got a couple of them, and mine, that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. That's quite a small one, and things like that. Now I do carry half-inch drive sockets as well, but they're for more heavy duty jobs, and we're not going to be, you're not going to do that on the roadside. So, but they are handy for changing your wheels, changing your spare. Firstly, the tool that you get with the vehicle is that's for changing your wheels, for taking your wheel nuts off. Now I take a power bar and a socket, and that's much better. If your wheel nuts are tight, you'll be struggling with that small tool. Now You've also got the special tool to lower your spare wheel. You've also got the securing nut on the spare wheel carrier. They can all be very tight, so I would take sockets for all of them. Now sometimes they're all the same size, but on mine they're not. That one is 19mm. Securing nut for the spare wheel into the carrier is 21mm, and the road wheel nuts and studs are 22mm. So I've got three sockets. I normally take the whole full kit, but I would definitely recommend taking those three. I would take a 12-volt tester. What I would prefer is the multimeter, because the tester will only tell you if the lead is live or for testing an earth, but that tests resistances, amps, volts, everything. So if you've got one, I would take one of them. Spanner set. Now I would recommend a combination spanner set. If you don't know what a combination spanner set is, that's a combination spanner. It's got a ring on one end and open-ended on the other end. Now some other things to take that aren't technically tools but are handy to have: jump leads and tow rope. Always come in handy. I would take a triangle if you've got one of those safety triangles, because it's very rare that you break down on a nice sunny day in a lay-by when you've got all the time in the world. Normally it's chucking it down the rain, you're blocking somebody and they're wanting to be passed, and it might even be at night. High-vis jacket. If you don't want to do the jacket, you can get the vest. Little vest. They aren't as dear as the jacket, they're only a couple of £. Torches. As I said, it might be in the dark, so always carry at least one torch. I've got about 3. I would suggest taking some latex gloves and some rags as well, because if whatever has happened mid-journey, you've got to drive your van the rest of the way, and if you don't have rags and latex gloves, you're going to get oil all over your steering wheel, all over your van, and also some rags as well. I also take a tin of releasing oil. It's handy to have. I would also recommend you take some spare fuses and electrical connectors if you've got some spare connectors, male and female. Scotch lock. A lot of people don't know what a Scotch lock is. They're very handy for joining 2 cables together. Pair of pliers, it's done. I even take a spare roll of cable. You never know. Cable ties, big strong ones and little weeny ones, always come in handy. Bungee cord, well, not one, a few bungee cords. Ratchet straps, 2 different types. They're not so strong as that one. That's a ratchet strap. They are a sort of a ratchet strap. And where do you stop? You can go on forever. I would also suggest that you get accident breakdown cover, because you're driving a bigger vehicle. It's not like driving a car where you could phone up your next door neighbour, come and get me. You can't with a camper van. Right, we're done. Now, after doing all of that, there's no guarantees. You could buy a £100,000 camper van and it could still break down. New vehicles break down as well. So there's always an element of luck involved. So definitely get your accident and breakdown cover. Now, I've just thought of something I didn't say. I meant to mention taking some tape with you. Masking tape, gaffer tape, electrician's tape. That was something else. I bought myself a little toy which, if you're going in your camper van or tent or anything like that, you might be interested in it. It's a torch. but you don't have to remember to put the batteries in, because if it's flat, you wind it up. And it's really bright. Now, not only is it a torch,
Chancellor Jeremy Hunt insisted the government
it's a radio,
is still on track to halve inflation this year.
and it plays quite well.
Ward, who's an advisor to Mr.
And it's got a USB in the back, so if you go out and have an accident or something, and your phone, the battery on your phone is flat, you can plug your phone into there, wind it up, so you can make a phone call for help. Quite handy to have. I'm pleased I bought it. So we're definitely finished this time, and it's been quite a long one, I think. I haven't been keeping a track. Hope you have a good summer travelling, issue free, same as I hope for me. So hope to see you on the next video. You take care.